So before we proceed, I'd just like to take a moment to introduce you guys to this new kind of series that I would be doing, where instead of taking a pessimistic look to everything that we love, it's instead taking an optimistic look, where we take the time to appreciate certain aspects of it and just absorb it. So I'd like to try a new system for this video, so every single thing that we are going to see this video will be scored from 1 to 5. Now, depending on the impact and significance of the scene and what's good in it will determine whether it's closer to a 1 or a 5. So if a scene is usually a 4 or 5, it means the scene was strong, it was impactful, it was just very important, and just had so many things right about it, then that's what we'll give it. If it's closer to a 1 or a 2, it might be a great scene that might have been hindered by a few things, or perhaps the scene itself might not be the most important thing, but might have a minor goodie that we can see. You'll see as we go along, so with this in mind, I think we're ready to proceed. Let's not take our time, let's get right into Every Pro with Resident Evil 4.
Guess that's a local's way of breaking the ice. Anyway, you know what this is all about. My assignment is to search for the president's missing daughter.
What? All by yourself?
I'm sure you boys didn't just tag along so we could sing Kumbaya together at some Boy Scout bonfire.
It contains stereotypes, yes, but it does show us a glimpse of Leon's witty character as well as just having a pretty iconic opening to a game. So with that in mind, 3.
No dejes que se escape. Vayan por detrás.
Why are these people?
Bloqueale el paso.
What are they planning? Chainsaw.
Everybody remembers this moment, everybody feels the thrills that's about to take place in the game itself. I think the only number that this deserves to be given is a 5.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
A very iconic, however slightly questionable one-liner. 4.
Soon, you will become unable to resist this intoxicating power.
With a slightly eerie soundtrack in the background, and along with a villain that has some wordplay to his dialogue that kind of hints his intentions, it's a nice scene. Although it is kind of minor, too.
Do something, cop.
After you.
Bit of a gag and an otherwise very tense moment. 1.
You carry the same blood as us, it seems. Nevertheless, you're an outsider. Just remember, if you become unpleasant to our eyes, you'll face severe consequences.
A bit of creepy ambience to go along with a pretty good villain introduction and a good showcase of what they are capable of. 3. Great sound design, great camera angles, and just a pretty good way to introduce the boss overall, too. An excellent symbolism of the plagas that Leon is infected with taking over his body and his mind, with a great soundtrack to accompany it. 5. For something as small that is an opening to a boss fight, I gotta say this really does some magic for me. Great use of camera angles showing how big El Gigante is compared to Leon. I love the capabilities of the boss that are shown. 3.
Hey, it's that dog.
At the beginning of the game, this dog's leg is trapped in a bear trap, and if you release that dog, he comes to help you out with the boss fight. How precious is that? It may be minor, but it's wonderful, too.
My name is Osman Sadler, the master of this fine religious community.
What do you want?
To demonstrate to the whole world our astounding power, of course. No longer will the United States think they can police the world forever.
Although this cutscene would lead to Sadler spoiling his entire plan to Leon, which I do think does take away from the scene, I will have to admit that the music that plays in the background really complements Sadler's character as a whole, and I think the bickering between the two is also great, with the delivery of Sadler's lines being excellent. So, 3.
Well, I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics, too.
How rude!
This was one of Luis's best deliveries in the game, although it's full of pervy behavior, it's pervy dialogue. It's a very iconic part of the game. 3.
Hasta luego.
From a badass Leon with unforgettable quotes to a gruesome transformation in the middle of an eerie soundtrack in the background, it's a recipe for a great cutscene. 4.
I've been expecting you, my brethren.
No thanks, bro.
Short and sweet, but most importantly, iconic. 4.
Ashley, wait! Ashley!
What's going on?
While I think the whole circumstances of the scene is just completely stupid on Ashley's behalf, it's pretty nice of the game to offer us some breathing room away from her so we don't always have to look after her. And I respect that, too.
Sorry, but following a lady's lead just isn't my style.
Put them up now.
Bit of advice, try using knives next time. Works better for close encounters.
This is a very cool scene. The only problem I have with it really is that it does add to a lot of questions that we have about Leon's knowledge of Wesker once the conversation takes place. However, beforehand, I would give it a 5, but I think I can only give it a 4 because of my gripe.
Leon! I got it.
Now that I have the sample, you serve me no purpose.
Sadler!
My boy Salazar will make sure you follow the same fate.
So I have a few things to unpack here. First and foremost, I think the shock value of this death was great. Sadler saw that Luis was getting in the way, put a stop to him immediately. There wasn't any climax to it, it just happened, it was sudden. That's realistic in all things considered. Another thing I do have to say, however, is Sadler could just kill Leon here. If Leon is useless, just kill him. You have the power to do it, so why don't you? Which kind of takes away from the realism of the scene, which kind of negates what I just said about the sudden death of it all. But the scene does end with a pretty emotional goodbye to Luis, so for that reason, I can give the scene a 2. It's good.
Leon!
Ashley! You did good.
I'm sorry if I was...
Oh, don't worry about it. Come on, let's move on.
I like the light and the darkness concept of this cutscene about how no matter how much hell the two have went through either together or individually, at the end of the day, Ashley can still trust Leon and Ashley feels safe around Leon. So that makes this reunion just a little bit more heartwarming with that nice soundtrack in the background. So for this, I'm going to have to give it a 3. Very nice.
Don't you know when it's time to throw in the towel? Where's the satisfying sound of one's impalement?
Don't fall for this old trick.
How dare you! No more games! Kill him!
I love this cutscene. I think it's a great cutscene. Leon's delivery of "won't fall for this old trick" is really good. I love the Indiana Jones feel to it about how there's a trapdoor leading to a potential impalement by spikes. And I like how Leon surviving in his just badass comment, it just sends Salazar over the edge. And I like that humanistic side of Salazar because although he's a pretty good villain, it goes to show that he is still somewhat human at the end of the day. He still retains humanistic qualities where everybody has that threshold before they lose their shit. And Salazar is no different. 3.
This is no ritual. It's terrorism.
Isn't that a popular word these days? Not to worry. We've prepared a special ritual for you.
I like this cutscene. I love how Leon didn't even give Salazar a chance to do what he was about to do. Just threw a knife straight into his hand. Just goes to show how badass and just amazing Leon is. But everybody knows this. Although I do have a couple drawbacks I'd like to talk about in this cutscene. It's pretty brief, to be honest, and I could have gone without, to be completely honest here. It does show a badass moment with Leon, but we get a lot of those as is. And admittedly, his political side about what they're doing is terrorism does kind of take me out of the scene. 1.
Mr. Kennedy, welcome.
Monsters. Guess after this, there'll be one less to worry about.
Leon's bravery is very cool. I like the environment this all takes place in. It looks really cool and complements the boss fight. The boss itself, I like how it's like 2 entities in one. The mutated Vertigo mixed with Salazar as opposed to Salazar becoming the mutant itself. I think that's pretty cool. Although, aside from that, I don't think there's much to say about this. So with that, 1.
Looks like this is it.
Ugh, it stinks.
Sure does.
No way, Leon.
Way.
Are you out of your mind?
I knew you'd be fine if you landed on your butt.
You... What is this?
I love the bickering that takes place between Leon and Ashley because it reminds us that this isn't a comprisement of a role of hero and princess, and the hero just saves the princess, and that be it. It reminds us that at the end of the day, despite Leon, in fact, being the hero here, they're both still human, they're both still gonna have their differences about things, and I really appreciate that, because it's realistic. So for that, it's a 2.
Sadler!
Perhaps you can resist, but you cannot disobey. to me, Ashley.
So I need to talk about something here. The fact that Leon, despite all the experience and heroism under his belt, just attacked Sadler and got stopped immediately. I love it when writers dedicate their time to writing these unstoppable villains. You can talk about how the Big Cheese was a pushover at the end of the day, and Salazar, although was more persistent, he got taken out because good beats evil. In this case, didn't happen. Leon was totally fine. They were in a 2v1 situation. If Sadler did not do that and put Leon in a bad situation in a different way, Ashley could have maybe stopped him in that situation. But here's what happened. Leon attacks, gets stopped immediately, writhes on the ground in absolute agony. Ashley gets hypnotized. So you just went from 2v1 with your odds looking well to immediate 1v2. Not to mention, you are weak, you are agonizing in pain. That is how you write a villain. I love it when writers do this, and I'm so glad they deviated from good beats evil every time. Respect, mad respect. Now, my only gripe with the scene, and it pains me so much to say that I have a gripe with this scene, because otherwise, the foundation of it is spectacular. The music is getting repetitive with Sadler. I wish they would have gave him a few more tracks. However, with that in mind even, it's an easy 4. Easy 4.
Been a long time, comrade. Krauser. I died in a crash 2 years ago. Is that what they told you?
I love a lot about this cutscene. I love the QTEs that you have to attend to while playing. It just has a very nice cinematic flair to it. I like the camera angles that take place while you do this QTE fight. There's just a lot to like about this cutscene. The music is great. The slow motion is wonderful. My only problem is, Resident Evil 4 built this cutscene up as if we knew who Krauser was prior to this, and there was no documentation of him in any game whatsoever prior to Resident Evil 4, which really threw a lot of people off, myself included. So for that reason, 4. This may be small, however, I do appreciate the fact that the game does remind us that the Plagas inside Leon is a very serious threat, and despite him being a main character, despite him being a super cool badass, it's not going to save him if he does not remove the Plagas quickly, and he nearly kills Ada in the process, whom of which is the one person who's helped him throughout this adventure. So I appreciate that. Not to mention, it's not better shown than in that small few seconds where his lifeless eyes and his motionless face is shown up close and personal. That's not Leon. That's just the body. 2.
Yet it seems you would rather choose death.
I'm taking Ashley back, whether you like it or not.
Ah, the audacity of youth.
Leon, now!
I really enjoy this cutscene because, once again, it supports what I said about the last Sadler cutscene where Leon can't take out Sadler on his own. Leon would be crumpled like paper without the help of Ada there. And let's face it, Leon would have died for sure. Sadler had him exactly where he wanted him. The only two things I'd say about this cutscene is, one, that music's back and it's getting repetitive and it's losing its meaning, to be completely honest. And second, those facial expressions Sadler was making as he was being shot with the TMP just looked like he was getting mind blown by something and his body physically reacted to it. It's kind of stupid. 3.
Ada! Better try a new trick, cause that one's getting old. You okay?
I've been better.
What's so funny?
Oh, I think you know. The American prevailing is a cliché that only happens in your Hollywood movies. Oh, Mr. Kennedy, you entertain me. To show my appreciation, I will help you awaken from your world of clichés.
Ada, stand back.
I like the ambience in the background as well as the lighting setup and the fact that Ada's completely unable to do anything throughout the duration of the fight, so it's just Leona against Sadler. Now, Sadler does mutate, and in the grand scheme of things, actually makes him less powerful when you really think about it, so it kind of takes away from the whole climax of the cutscene of Sadler transforming, so admittedly, I can only give it a 3.
Sorry, Leon. Hand it over.
Ada, you do know what this is.
Don't worry. I'll take good care of it.
This whole ending really represents Ada's character. It's a quick, too.
Ashley! Ashley! Where are ya?
Leon!
Come on. Let's go home.
Sounds like a great idea. Mission accomplished. Right, Leon?
Not quite. I still have to get you home safe.
So, after you take me back to my place, how about we do some, overtime?
Sorry.
Somehow I knew you'd say that, but it doesn't hurt to ask, you know? So, who was that woman anyway?
Why do you ask?
Come on, tell me.
She's like a part of me I can't let go. Let's leave it at that.
So that's Resident Evil 4, ending off with a cliche type of ending. So for that, I'll give it 1 extra point. So 81 points Resident Evil 4 scored. It doesn't really have a point of reference unless you decide to average out how many points each good clip I presented to you got. Because then you have a grasp of just how strong the game's cutscenes are overall. But, yeah, that was Resident Evil 4. It's my first time trying this, and I hope you enjoyed it. So, with that in mind, take care for now. See ya.